Daniel Chen pressed his palm against the biometric scanner, and the airlock to HAB Module 7 hissed open. The recycled air of Mars Station Kepler-9 tasted metallic, as always, but today it carried something else, the faint scent of the protein paste he'd synthesized in the communal kitchen. He tucked the thermal container under his arm and made his way through the dimly lit corridors toward the abandoned storage section. 3 months ago, the Jaivari refugee ship had crash-landed in the Val's Mariner Risk Canyon, 50 kilometers from the station. The United Earth Coalition had quarantined the survivors immediately, citing contamination protocols. But Daniel knew the truth. The UEC didn't want alien refugees competing for resources on a colony world that barely sustained its human population. Most of the Jaivari had died in the crash. The survivors had been processed, cataloged, and forgotten in the bureaucratic machinery. 2 of them had slipped through the cracks, or rather, Daniel had helped them slip through. He reached the sealed bulkhead at corridor's end and knocked twice, then once, then 3 times. The pattern they'd agreed upon. The door slid open a crack. Orla's face appeared in the gap, her bioluminescent markings dim with exhaustion. The Jaivari woman's features were unsettlingly close to human, 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, but her skin held an opalescent quality that shifted between silver and pale blue depending on the light. Her daughter, Kes, peered out from behind her mother's leg, her own markings barely developed, pulsing faintly with childlike curiosity. "Daniel," Orla said, her voice carrying the musical undertones that all Jaivari possessed. Her English had improved dramatically over the past weeks. "You shouldn't keep coming, if they find you." "They won't." He held up the container. "I brought something better today. Managed to splice some of your amino acid requirements into the base formula. It should taste less like plastic." Orla's expression softened, a human gesture she'd learned from him. She opened the door wider and Daniel stepped into the storage room they'd converted into a makeshift living space. He'd smuggled in thermal blankets, a portable heater, and a water recycler. It wasn't much, but it was survival. Kes rushed forward and wrapped her thin arms around Daniel's leg. Her markings brightened to a cheerful yellow-green. Despite everything, the crash, the deaths, the hiding, the child still found reasons to be happy. It broke something in Daniel's chest every time. "Hey, little star," he said, using the nickname he'd given her. He handed the container to Orla and crouched down to Kes's level. "I brought you something else, too." He pulled out a small data tablet from his pocket. He'd loaded it with Earth children's books, translated through the Jaivari linguistic database he'd quietly accessed from the station's mainframe. Kes's eyes widened, and she took the tablet with reverent care. Orla watched her daughter settle into a corner with the tablet, then turned to Daniel. "We can't keep living like this. Kes needs sunlight, real food. She's not growing properly." Daniel knew. He'd been monitoring Kes's vital signs with a medical scanner he'd smuggled in. The child's cellular structure was deteriorating from the lack of specific nutrients and the wrong atmospheric pressure. Mars's lower gravity helped. It was closer to the Jaivari homeworld's gravity than Earth's, but it wasn't enough. "I've been thinking about that," Daniel said carefully. Orla opened the container and divided the protein paste onto 2 recycled polymer plates. She handed one to Kes, who accepted it without complaint, though Daniel could see the effort it took for the child to eat the bland sustenance. "The UEC will never give us asylum," Orla continued, her bioluminescent markings flickering red. Fear, Daniel had learned. "They made that clear in the processing. We're not human. We have no economic value. We're just mouths to feed on a planet that can barely feed its own." She wasn't wrong. Mars Station Kepler-9 operated on razor-thin margins. Every calorie was accounted for, every liter of water recycled 3 times before it was recycled again. The terraform effort was decades behind schedule. Bringing 2 aliens into the official population would mean 2 fewer slots for humans. It was cruel mathematics, but it was the mathematics of survival. Daniel sat down on a storage crate. What if you didn't need asylum from the UEC? Orla's markings shifted to purple, confusion mixed with hope. What do you mean? I've been working on something. A petition. There's an old Earth law, pre-colonial era, about private sponsorship. If an individual can prove they have the resources to support dependents without drawing on public resources, they can sponsor them for residency. But you're just a biotech engineer, Orla said softly. You don't have those kinds of resources. Daniel smiled. I don't, but I have something better. I have a breakthrough. He pulled out his personal data pad and brought up the files he'd been compiling in secret. For the past 3 months, I've been studying your biology, the way Jaivari cells process nutrients, your protein synthesis pathways, your atmospheric requirements. Do you know what I found? Orla shook her head. Your people are far more efficient than humans. Your cellular structure can process ambient carbon dioxide directly. You need 1/5 of the caloric intake humans require. And your waste products, he gestured excitedly. They're perfect for the terraform bacteria. You could accelerate the terraform process by decades just by existing here. Orla's markings pulsed with disbelief. You're saying we're useful. I'm saying you're invaluable. Daniel leaned forward. I've drafted a paper. If I publish this research, if I can demonstrate the symbiotic potential between Jaivari and human colonists, the UEC will have to reconsider. You won't be refugees. You'll be assets. The word tasted bitter in his mouth, but it was the language the colonial administration understood. But there's a problem, he continued. I need time. Time to complete the research, time to gather more data, time to make the case bulletproof. And I can't do that with you hiding in a storage closet. Orla was silent for a long moment. Across the room, Kes laughed at something on the tablet, the sound like wind chimes. What are you proposing? Orla asked quietly. Daniel took a breath. This was the leap, the point of no return. Come live with me, officially. I have a private HAB unit assigned quarters for senior staff. It's small, but it's registered to me. If you're under my roof, under my protection, the UEC can't touch you without going through me. It buys us time. 3 months, maybe 6. Enough to make the case. They'll arrest you, Orla said. Harboring unregistered aliens, you'll lose everything. Only if they find out before I publish the research. Daniel met her eyes. And if they do, so be it. I'm not going to watch a child starve because of bureaucratic cowardice. Orla's markings cycled through a dozen colors: fear, hope, gratitude, uncertainty. Finally, they settled on a steady blue-green that Daniel had learned meant determination. Why, she asked. Why risk everything for us? We're nothing to you, we're not even the same species. Daniel thought about that. He thought about his sister, dead at 6 from a preventable disease because their family couldn't afford treatment in the early colony days. He thought about the artificial scarcity that governed their lives, the way humanity had brought all its worst instincts to the stars. He thought about Kes's laugh, and the way Orla studied human expressions with such careful hope. Because someone has to, he said simply. Because if we can't show compassion to strangers, what's the point of surviving at all? Orla looked at her daughter, then back at Daniel. Slowly, she extended her hand, a human gesture. Daniel took it. Her skin was cool and smooth like polished stone. We'll come, she said. But Daniel, when they come for you, and they will come, I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise me you'll let us go, that you won't sacrifice yourself for us. Daniel smiled sadly. That's one promise I can't make. Orla's markings flickered, then settled into warm gold: acceptance. Then we'd better make sure your research is flawless, she said. That night, Daniel Chen registered 2 dependents in the colonial database. By morning, the questions would start. But for now, in the quiet of his HAB unit, he watched Orla tuck Kes into a real bed for the first time in months. The child's bioluminescent markings pulsed contentedly, like a heartbeat made of light. Outside, the red planet turned beneath unfamiliar stars. And in one small room, three beings from different worlds made a family from hope and defiance. The future was uncertain, but for tonight it was enough. The end.